Welcome you back to this CSS series. We are moving straight into CSS colors. You see, when you are working with colors in CSS, there are three primary properties you'll use. We've got our background color property, border color, and color property. Many people often refer the last one as the foreground color. So in terms elements like paragraphs or headings lists, this refers to the color of the text. Now, whether you are defining color for the borders, backgrounds, or an element, you have a number of options in terms of how you want to define the color. I will highlight them quickly and then we'll look at each one in turn. First, you can use color keywords, hexadecimal or hex notation. Then there's RGB color system that stands for red, green, and blue. And lastly, HSL, which stands for hue, saturation, and light. Actually, there are additional ways to define color values in CSS, but these are the primary ones that you'll come across. Let's start with color keywords. You can choose from one of the many color keywords supported by the CSS color module. The keywords map to a predetermined set of values that browsers will use to display the color, and take note that these keywords work with all browsers. If you want a specific color, and there's not a keyword for it, which is very likely, there are a few ways to represent colors as numbers, and you can see here. Next, we have the hexadecimal notation to represent color values. Essentially, hex notation is another way of representing RGB color. It is noted by a hash sign, followed by 3 hex pairs representing the red, green, and blue values of a color. With RGB, this full saturation of red is represented as 25 and a 0 and 0. With hex notation, it's represented as hash sign FF for red, 00 for no green, and 00 for no blue. We can use the scale to help us determine exactly what the notation would be. So the HSL notation is specified by the letters HSL, and then the parenthesis and 3 values that correspond to hue, saturation, and lightness. Now, the color's hue is represented as an angle on the color wheel, which ranges from 0 to 360. Do not worry, I know this is a lot. Once we start the practicals, you will get it better. Red is 0, green is 120, and blue is 240, and other colors such as yellow, orange, and violet are found between those values. The saturation represents the amount of color, with 100% being fully saturated and 0% being grayscale. And then lightness tells us how brighter or dark the color is. So here, let's pick color blue, and let's say the saturation is maybe going to be around 50%. And our lightness is going to be around 30%. So that's how you will note that. And in this example, you can actually see how the color value is referenced with both RGB and hex. Now, one more thing I want to show you about colors. For both RGB and HSL, CSS gives us an additional alpha channel which specifies the opacity for a color. To do this, we use the RGBA notation instead of RGB, and that fourth parameter represents the alpha on a scale of 0 to 1, where 0 is fully transparent and 1 is fully opaque. And here you can see how those values translate to varying degrees of opacity for this red color. The idea is similar for HSL with alpha. The notation becomes HSLA with the fourth parameter representing the alpha value. Adding this fourth value to both RGB and HSL definitions allows you to have individual transparency settings for backgrounds, borders, and foreground colors. Like I said, I know this is a whole lot, but just wanted you to see that CSS gives us tremendous flexibility when it comes to the way that we define colors for borders, backgrounds, and elements. In the next lesson, we will learn how to apply borders and backgrounds. The comment section is open just in case you have any questions. Okay, thanks for watching. Do not forget to share and subscribe to our platform.